You're listening to a Galactic Network podcast. For more, go to gncast.com.
We are the ElseNerds.
Hello and welcome to ElseNerds, a production of Galactic Network. I'm Gregor Sprague, and joining me is my co-host Corey Scott. And for real quick, before we introduce our guest, for all info on the show, including show notes and subscription links, go to ElseNerds.com. And for other Galactic Network programs, go to gncast.com. And as a warning, on ElseNerds, we tend to shoot our mouths off without thinking, so we will both spoil things and swear liberally. You have been warned. So, Corey, don't care how you're doing, because we got a guest. Patrick Delahanty from twit.tv, animecons.tv, adequate.com. Patrick, how you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Now, Corey, how you doing?
I am running with I'm Superman 4, the quest for a headache medicine that works. But I'm good. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that Patrick is here. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that Growly's here in the chat. So hi, Growly.
True. Yeah. Hey, Growly. So yeah, I think we've been trying to get you on for a while, but schedules just hadn't matched up. So honestly, I'm glad to. Yeah, you're busy over there at Twit, which is understandable.
Yes. Burke's here too.
Yes.
Yay, Burke!
Hi, Burke. And doing things, but yeah. So thank you once again for taking time out. Almost swallowed whole the cough drop I'm sucking on because I got this really awesome cough going on. Would not
just real fast, everybody, what is your favorite cough drop brand / go-to? And is it because it's a cough drop, or is it because it's basically just glorified candy?
So I do that. I do get the throats just for cough, the pectin stuff, which is basically it's just candy. And then I usually get like the tropical fruit or something like that. But these are actually cherry that I've got, the Hall's cherry.
Yes. Hall's cherry, that's my go-to. It's candy.
When I was a kid, it was the Luden's cough drops that were cherry flavored that were just awesome, and I would go through a whole package in one sitting. And I feel like most Halls I'm like that with anyways, but at least the Halls I feel are actually medicinal.
Yeah.
Luden's were not. They were just sugar.
Yeah, it's one of those things like because I had this cough and I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna need to take something. So I go, Mom, you got any cough drops? And she gave me her bag of Hall's soothing whatever things. I'm like, all right, cool. But I get occasionally, it's usually the Dollar General brand because they're cheap, but just the throat soothers thing where it's only for coughs.
They also have the ones that are liquid film that are like the old freshen up gum. Yeah, those are all right. I don't know. If you really want to attack something, you go full on Ricola, but that's kind of harshing my mellow. That's like putting an Altoid as a suppository.
So on that note, let's move into the news here. And actually, I believe all these, with the exception of one story, Patrick recommended, and this one you actually, brought to us. And that's at least one Star Wars Rebels character survives until Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm gonna assume that it's safe to. I'm gonna assume that it's a safe bet that you've seen and you are big into Star Wars Rebels.
I love Star Wars Rebels. I've watched the Clone Wars and of course all the movies, but yeah, I've seen every episode of Star Wars Rebels the night it aired. Sometimes before it airs because they have it online through the Disney XD app, and so I'm big into that show, and I need to cosplay from it sometime. I want to build a chopper. I want everything.
Nice. But yeah, so I've seen this, and it's we'll have a link to it because it's talking about the video, which this is one of the things that I've been liking that they've been doing is the Star Wars Forces of Destiny little shorts that they do that they'll play sometimes between Disney Channel or Disney XD shows that are in canon, and it's focusing in on the women of Star Wars because, I mean, let's face it, in a lot of things, women are forgotten. Star Wars is one of the first ones to have a lot of kick-ass women, and
yes.
in the forefront.
Yeah, well, not so much in the original trilogy where there was Leia and a slave girl and Mon Mothma. I think that was the three women
your blue milk server and
Aunt Beru. And it's good to see Forces of Destiny giving the role model for the girls.
Yeah.
But it also, I like how the story fills in some little gaps here and there with Rey, with Leia, and other characters. And it's a nice little side story.
So let me ask you this there, Patrick. What are your thoughts on the whole, like basically Star Wars in general with the whole, this is canon, this isn't canon, we're pulling this in from non-canon to canon, all that stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
I think canon is given too much weight because, if it's a good story, if you enjoy reading it, that's great. It doesn't matter if it was the expanded universe and now it's not canon anymore, or, maybe it's something that is canon, or it doesn't matter. As long as you enjoy it, that's good. But I do like seeing stuff like this that is in canon, because that gives us the promise that there may be more coming. And so knowing that Hera and Chopper are alive by the time of Return of the Jedi, they're on Endor talking to Han Solo, it tells us, oh, there's more to that story. Her timeline's not ended. So
yeah.
And sometimes I wonder if the point of this is to kind of give canon back to the audience that is still kind of lost as to what is and what isn't, because it was a hard thing to do that to the fans. And I know that was ultimately a decision that probably had to be made to be able to do the sequels now. But you're talking about people who've been dedicated to this for 30 years. And some people have read everything and watched everything multiple times. And to say, okay, now everything that you knew, a lot of it probably isn't the same anymore. And okay, great. But they did this with Spider-Man a few years ago, where they wiped out the Spider-Man marriage, and they changed a lot of his history in doing that. And it was a number of years of them trying to kind of let people know what exists now and what doesn't exist now, what changed, what didn't change. And even then, there was so many continuity flubs, because depending on the creator you had in the book or the editor you had doing it, it would be counterbalanced by somebody else's story saying, oh, well, no, this person knows who Spider-Man is. Oh, this person doesn't know who Spider-Man is this week. But you're right. When it comes to continuity, you kind of just have to let it go sometimes. It's rough, because in your mind, you see it all one way. And then when you see the people who are in charge of it not following that, you're like, well, why? Why can't you? Isn't that your job, man?
And in the case of Star Wars, there was so much built up through the books and comics and everything over the years that it really became complicated. You look at Wikipedia, and you look up something like the trash compactor monster, and that thing had an origin planet, had a name, had a backstory, and it's just this little thing. And so I could see how that made it hard to tell stories going forward, because there's very few holes that hadn't been filled. So you're going to say, okay, no, this is just legends now. You can still enjoy those stories, but here's what's actually in the timeline. And, maybe at some point, 20, 30 years down the line, they'll have to do it again and say, okay, this is Legends 2. We're going to tell more stories. And I've seen this with Transformers. I was a big fan of Generation 1. And then, then there was the comic and the cartoon, and they were different. And then you had the Japanese. And so the entire history of Transformers has been different timelines, different canons. And so Star Wars has been lucky that it's really just had that one, and now they've separated. So,
well, even back in the day, because when the movies were still coming out, we were already getting side stuff. We were getting Splinter of the Mind's Eye. We were getting the Marvel comic series of Star Wars that introduced things like Jax, who is the giant green bunny, or human-sized green bunny, and right. And all these things that it's like, none of that really exactly ties in well to what they did with the series going forward. Like at first we all thought, sure thing, Luke and Leia are going to get together, right? And I think a lot of things are written towards that oops.
Yeah.
Wow, I have a lot of confusion about this now.
Yeah, and Beats saying, wasn't it Dark Horse? And no, Marvel had the rights for Star Wars or publishing Star Wars, and then it went to Dark Horse later on. But yeah, so I mean, I look at this article, which we post in our show notes and all that stuff, which has the video from Disney's website, and they talk about, which is something I'm more of a fan of. You know, like canon. Okay, it's cool, and I do enjoy canon. You know, like what is canon, what isn't canon, but it's more Easter eggs, and they give a little Easter egg to with Yoda throwing Luke's ration sticks in Empire. And it took me a little bit. I'm like, wait, what are they talking about? And they have a GIF playing. I'm like, oh yeah, that's clever. You know, these little things that, if I were watching it, I might have picked up on it. But if not, it's you watch after, like the 99th viewing, you pick up on something else. It's a way to keep people watching, the rewatchability of things.
Yeah, I watched it, that clip for the first time yesterday, and I totally missed the reference to Yoda, but the stuff like that's a really nice touch to be able to see later on.
It's animated Ewoks, and man, I had a love of the Ewoks cartoon series as a kid, so it's nice to see that come back.
So the next story is that DC has cast their Shazam. Sorry, I was waiting for the lightning. And it's Zachary Levi, who we might know from playing what's his Thor character? Fandral? No. But from Chuck, he was the lead character in Chuck.
Yeah, he was Fandral. Yeah.
Fandral, that's right, yeah. I knew it was fan something, but I couldn't get the last part. Now, this is actually interesting for me. And because we were talking about this before, because we knew who was Black Adam. The Rock is going to be playing Black Adam. And so I was like, all right. And there was reports when he was, cast for this that they basically go, which one do you want? Do you want, basically in wrestling terms, do you want to be the face or the heel? He's like, I'm being the heel, man. So he picked Black Adam. And so everyone's like, okay, well, who's going to play Shazam? Are we going to get Vin Diesel? And they're naming off all these muscle men. And then for Zachary Levi, I'm like, he's got to put on a lot of muscle. Like, because he's not where he might, I think he's tall, but he's not, ripped, especially if he's going to be going up against the people's champion. If not in the first movie, they will be crossing paths.
I grew up with the Captain Marvel Shazam character, reading the comics from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and he wasn't. Superheroes didn't used to be all that jacked. If you go back and watch Christopher Reeve in the Superman movies, that was more of a superhero build for a long time. That's what we looked at, and it wasn't all like here's your 22-pack abs in every shot like it is today, which is not a bad thing at all. And I'm certain that Zachary Levi can pull that off with the trainer and everything else. And it's not like he's in bad shape now. But the essential of the Shazam movie has been, what is this movie going to be like when we've seen what is many people believe is a very dark DC film universe. And if these characters are supposed to exist in the same universe, which, since they've said a bunch of times that Black Adam is supposed to not only get his own movie, but may even go up against Superman at some point, then is that darkness going to bleed over into what was probably the most kid-friendly comic character lead that DC had, because it was brought in by another company. It was the Fawcett Comics, and then DC acquired them by suing them into existence. And what I see from this is Zachary Levi, while maybe not the first person I would have thought of to play Shazam, is a great choice in the kind of movie that I would like a Shazam movie to be, because he is a big smiling guy. He's a lot of fun. He is deep in the nerd culture. He is everything that I would expect someone in that suit to exude. But he then also has to play kind of the straight guy in the character, which is a little weird, because Shazam was kind of like, he was a young kid in an adult's body, but in that adult's body, he got the wisdom of Solomon. He got the gravitas of Zeus and all of these other godlike characters. So I'm not sure exactly what this is going to be, but I kind of trust it more because of this choice than I would have even someone who I would enjoy, like a John Cena that was bandied about for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely look at it like the body style is the only thing that, because I'm taking this from a lot newer of understanding of the comic book characters and just with how they look and all that. But trust me, I dig the fact that they did cast Zachary Levi. And it's also why I never do when people ask like, well, who would you cast? I'm like, no, I cannot play casting director because I would probably do a lot of the picks that everyone else would do. And wow, I didn't even think about Zachary Levi for Shazam.
Yeah, John Hamm was somebody that was talked about from the fan side of things and was, to me, a pretty stellar example as to, that could be a lot of fun. And again, because John Hamm can do humor and do lightness of character as much as he can do very serious things like in Mad Men.
Yeah. And it's the other interesting part for this for me is like I had heard that there was this unspoken rule that wasn't really going to be much actor crossover between the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DC film universe. I'm assuming that's what the F is in FU. So this is actually going to be the first, bigger star to be in both cinematic universes here. What do you guys think about that part? Because I mean, here, you look at other, rivalries in the nerd culture, and we have crossovers with that. Like I know George Takei is one of the first, if not the only person to be in both Star Wars and Star Trek. He was in, I think it was Rebels. Or not Rebels, Clone Wars.
Simon Pegg is Scotty, and he's Unkar Plutt. So
yeah. Well, no, see, that's why I said one of the first. And they're not like the only people. I
really don't see this. I don't see them having Zachary Levi also play him in the Marvel universe, and I don't see any crossover happening.
But no, I mean, like we said, he's Fandral in the Thor movies.
Yeah,
and then he's also going to be like, we don't really see that with like the only other person who has done. Like Chris Evans, yes, he has done those. Like he was in here, and then he was over here. But it's like
and Ryan Reynolds was Green Lantern and Deadpool. But far as
did he play Green Lantern?
Yeah, it's referenced in the beginning of Deadpool.
And a lot of these are pre the universes where it's like they were more just licensed out to other studios to make. But now that it's we've got essentially two big powerhouse studios, they're doing their own films and stuff like that. I had heard these reports that
it's not like Fandral is a major character so far, and honestly, Zachary Levi didn't even play him in the first film. How many people noticed when he switched over in the second Thor movie to somebody else? And how much do we know that he's going to be in Ragnarok? I would love to see a Warriors 3 Sif spin-off or something, or even a short, because they're talking about doing the Marvel shorts again for the Blu-ray DVD releases that they stopped for a while. But it's the same as anything else. Is he should get his due, and Zachary Levi is someone that I think could easily play a superhero character, and it's finding the right fit for him. If it wasn't this, he could have been a good Green Lantern. It's really hard to say what spot he would have filled, but if you're in a part at Marvel that is not a giant role and you're not signed on for multiple sequels and everything else like that, then yeah, you should go find the place that's going to sign you up for something a little bit more major.
And honestly, I'm looking at the list here from the article that they had other people. They had John Cena, who had met with the director, Derek Thieler from ABC Family's Baby Daddy, Zane Holtz from Dusk Till Dawn, the series, Billy Magnuson from Bridge of Spies, and then Jake McDornan from the TV series Limitless. I look at those and I'm sitting there like, okay, a lot of them, I don't see the potential for big, with the exception of John Cena, to have this be their breakout, silver screen role in there. So I still think that this is I love the casting choice. I think this is great, but I don't know, because I still feel like this is going to be like the Shazam Black Adam thing is going to be a little bit ways out, because I think they're doing a Black Adam movie, separate, and then like they will meet or something.
I'm hearing more about the Shazam movie being closer to filming than I hear about the Black Adam movie being closer to filming. The Black Adam movie to me is in the same boat as Gambit, which is we've talked about it for a good number of years, but when it actually is going to land is anybody's guess. The Sandberg has been saying for a while, like he's put up the script and photos. He's teased a lot, and he's mocked Twitter to a certain degree, saying, you know, there's absolutely going to be people who are going to love this and people who are going to long for my death after this comes out. So it'll be fun to see who lands where. But I like that about him, is because he's got a good sense of humor going in just about how people are going to react. And how do you handle that? That is such a scary place to be in Hollywood right now, is being in charge of one of these fan-based properties. And there's the potential for a huge payoff if you're James Gunn, who does everything right with Guardians of the Galaxy, that had low expectations but made everybody happy, or you're the person who makes what is a quality movie, but then everybody pisses on it because, well, Avengers 2 wasn't as good as Avengers 1. It's and I'm going on a limb by saying that Avengers 2 was a quality movie, but whatever. It's tough. It's hard to even think about wanting to be in that position. That's why I think so many people come in, sign up, and then walk away.
No, yeah, definitely. I think these are great. I think this is honestly a great discussion, and I think the fact that this is what confuses me a little bit, is because Shazam is going to be at New Line. So is it in the DC film universe, or is this like essentially an ElseWorld story? It could just be a production thing. It might be as similar as Hulk being at Universal, although that's a little bit bigger of a deal. At least New Line is still under Warner Brothers, and they have the map for this. But it could just be like, we want to put something on New Line's map that we can both lose money on if it's not a huge success, or it can make their year by being there into the DC film universe. I don't know the ins and outs of that, of course, but that's the way that I would see it being. And it may also be just like, we did this because this is where this director was and we wanted him to work on it, and he's under contract for that production house instead of the other ones. Patrick, do you have a favorite superhero comic book property that you haven't seen yet? And if you were able to cast it, what would you do?
That I haven't seen yet. The first one that comes to mind is Ms. Marvel, the new one.
Yes.
The Kamala Khan. Yeah.
Yes. How is that comic not going? How is that not more active? It's so good. And I would love to see that, even if it's just a TV show. I want to see more with that. And I want to see that in the MCU. Especially after Captain Marvel comes out. And that may be the thing, is Captain Marvel's secondary characters, like the things that you would add on to her. With Iron Man, obviously you get Rhodey. With Captain America, you get Falcon and Winter Soldier. But Captain Marvel doesn't have a huge group of characters that would be... They've been using Alpha Flight characters with her, which has me kind of excited. And depending on how they go with the movie, is like, if we get Sasquatch and Puck from Alpha Flight, that would be really cool, even if they're just secondary, and then maybe something with Alpha Flight happens one day. But you're right, I love Kamala Khan. I think she's terrific.
No, yeah, I was actually really excited that you said that. Do you have any casting choices that you would see with it?
I hadn't really thought about it. And, I'd love to see him. It's obviously a young character, so pick somebody relatively unknown, and it's their big break. So
now, Are you familiar with, because I think she's in the Avengers Disney XD show.
I haven't watched that. No.
Yeah. She's in.
I need to watch that, though.
Yeah, because they bring her in there. And actually, that's the one thing that I've been applauding for, with them doing this, is because they've been able to do, and this is coming from someone who hasn't really been following it like he used to, but they've been doing these stories a lot more like they from the comics, but just animating them. I think they had her at one point as a central character in the Avengers TV show, which is really great.
Yeah, cool.
There's Stephanie Beatrice, who's from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, has been posting pictures of her in cosplay as America Chavez. She loves the character and wants to play her up on screen. Now, the argument is that America Chavez is usually portrayed as a teenage character, but it's just kind of incredible to see someone in Hollywood picking up on what is this mostly only known to baseline comic book fans and jumping all over it and saying, I really want to play this part, which is, yeah, we're in a point where Hollywood has made comic book heroes more financially exciting than ever. But it's still really cool because America is a still relatively new character. And this is an actress that I really like in her Brooklyn Nine-Nine role. And when I've seen her in parts on like Modern Family and stuff, it just seems really cool that this is a time that we live in now.
I look at it, and then obviously I'm going to do the obvious one here because there is still the tie here. Miles Morales Spider-Man. This is one that I have said, numerous times on here, and Corey's always gone, well, you're going to have the backstory, and, all sorts of like, no, you don't. No. We didn't have to have the backstory.
No, I have a problem with the backstory in the comics.
Yeah, you have that problem. And I'm like, but no, they've simplified it by confusing it a little bit, but basically just like, don't worry about it. Don't, here's him. Follow him now, not where he was. Because we're sort of getting that. I feel like we might get that going on with the at least the TV, like the animated TV side of things, sort of similar to how we got the birth of Miles Morales, where we had Donald Glover going, I want to play Spider-Man. He had the Facebook campaign and the Twitter campaign going for it, and then we got Brian Michael Bendis took note and created Miles Morales Spider-Man. I think we could see something like that happening with Stephanie Beatrice doing this.
So and Sony is supposed to be doing a Miles Morales animated movie. They've been announced it a couple years ago, so I don't know what the status of that is. But yeah, I'm perfectly accepting that they can do that in the films or TV shows. My problem is just trying to explain to a new comic book reader where the hell Miles Morales came from and why his history is so convoluted when I'm trying to sell them comic books, which is fortunately not my job anymore, so I don't have to deal with that headache. But as a once, twice, three times a retailer, it still kind of sticks in my craw a little bit.
Here's how I always counter that because I say, hey, you like how in Spider-Man, the cartoon shows, he's always a kid in high school? That's this. Because you look at the Peter Parker Spider-Man comic books, he's older. He's got Parker Industries, or it blew up, so he's going back to the Daily Bugle and all that stuff. But now we got counter over into here, and this is him as a kid. You can relate to him. You're a kid. There we go. Haha.
Well, now that we've had Spider-Man Homecoming, it would almost be cool to see the reverse and have Miles Morales be the adult Spider-Man.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. But I want to move on and I think I have a loose connection here because aren't Phil Lord and Chris Miller rumored to direct the Miles Morales animated movie?
Well, it depends on if they've been fired yet or not.
It's only a matter of time.
Well, and I mentioned that because Lord and Miller are set to direct Andy Weir, the author of The Martian's new novel, Artemis, for when it comes out. And out of the three of us here, I think only one of us can say that they've seen the cover and will be reading the book really soon. And it ain't me or Corey.
Not soon enough, really.
So Patrick, I'm gonna throw to you because I'm assuming you're a big Andy Weir fan since you're dying to read the book.
Well, a big Andy Weir fan. I've seen The Martian and I own a copy of it, and so that's all of his work that I know of. Yeah. Besides Artemis, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to The Martian's great, and so I'm expecting that from Artemis, and hopefully it won't let me down. But I've been hearing great things, so.
And that's the thing too, is Andy Weir is still pretty young in his career of being a writer. The Martian was his first book, wasn't it? Essentially, he wrote it online and then got the book deal and got it published and stuff. But he's not had a lot of experience, but it was just such a blast off of quality and it hit the audience right that now you get Miller and Lord wanting to direct your movie for your new book that isn't even out yet, and so you have no idea how successful it is.
I don't know if I'd want them to direct my movie if I was anywhere. They did a great job on the Lego movie. I loved that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I don't think lightning can strike twice. I've seen what they've done on Last Man on Earth. I watched that show. I've seen every episode, and I'm continuing to watch it, but I'm kind of hate watching it now. I really can't stand most of the characters in that show. Mm-hmm. It's trying to be funny, and it falls flat. It's tiresome, and I'm glad they were taken off of the Han Solo movie. And I think I can't see a Han Solo movie with Lego movie style jokes or Last Man on Earth style jokes. And so thinking of them, and I've seen some other stuff they've done. Can't remember
the 21 and 22 Jump Street movies.
Yeah. And see, I can't see
How I Met Your Mother.
Working. Yeah, I can't see that stuff working for Han Solo. And I don't know I haven't read Artemis, but if it's anything serious sort of story like The Martian, I can't see that working.
It sounds like a murder mystery on the moon from what I got from the description of it, and it kind of like a Blade Runner-y noirish novella. But that's just a guess. Again, without reading it, I don't know. But it does follow up with the hard science stuff in the way that he did with The Martian.
Yeah, the article quotes it as this. They describe Artemis as an adrenaline-charged crime caper that features smart, detailed world building based on real science. It centers on Jasmine Bashara, a.k.a. Jazz, just another too smart, directionless 20-something chafing in the constraints of her small town and dreaming of a better life. Except the small town happens to be named Artemis, and it's the first and only city on the moon. She goes into debt to pay for a job, and blah, 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 blah. Hilarity ensues from there.
Which is a problem, because it doesn't sound like a story where hilarity should ensue.
Is there a wacky sidekick character that comes in?
There will be now.
Yeah.
Or they go against type. They go against what we know them for. And I'm with you. I dropped out of Last Man on Earth pretty early on. I find that Will Forte, who I like a lot, his comedy is really hit or miss for me. Fred Armisen, same thing. It's like my wife kept watching all the episodes of Portlandia, and she's like, I keep thinking it's going to be funny, but it's never been funny, and I don't know why I haven't learned my lesson yet. I'm like, yeah, I know that completely, because, again, I can enjoy either of those people in small doses, but a full thing with them in the leads, it's like their style of humor is not for me. And the style of humor in a lot of the current comedy stuff, like the 21 Jump Street movies, is not for me. It's just, it seems like modern humor is not where I'm not clicking with it, which does not mean that there's anything wrong with it. It just means that I'm not the right audience. But I could see Lord and Miller doing something different because they're capable. They're incredibly capable. And the Lego movie is a stellar example of a movie where it's just like, wow, this lands on pretty much every level. It's just a matter of what does it take? And for Andy Weir, it was probably just, well, someone's cut me a huge check, and I get to spend forever.
Yeah, I look at this honestly as like looking at their Wikipedia, the Wikipedia page where it has their film history and their television history. It is a lot of comedies that they're in here doing, and stuff like that. So I agree with you, Corey, honestly, 100%. I think it is them trying to break out of the doing the comedies.
I mean, they did my favorite movie of all time, which is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I cannot tell you how much that movie just grabbed my attention. Book I never read as a kid, so I had no connection to it at all up until seeing that, and I'm like, holy crap, this is everything to me. But yeah, I don't know. I guess one thing you could say is, well, we saw that the audience didn't show up for the new Blade Runner, so a super serious sci-fi movie may be something that Hollywood wants to avoid right now.
Maybe we're just too much of a group of nerds and give too much importance to Artemis, because we're like, oh, Artemis, it's Andy Weir. This has to be, maybe Hollywood's looking at it as like, yeah, this is book by the sci-fi. Yeah, he had that one thing, but yeah, let's see if these guys can give it a shot. Maybe they don't care about it enough to give it to somebody with the background that you might expect for this sort of film. Maybe there's like, oh yeah, we'll give them a shot. Maybe they can do this sort of thing.
Yeah. If you look at the career of Stephen King and you see that his biggest hits were things that were more controlled by other people, like The Shining, for decades, and now with it, we finally see something that both looks and feels like what Stephen King has written and earned successes at the same time. Maybe it takes a long time as a writer to get your due for that to happen. When the amount of time that Neil Gaiman has had stuff in development, and we finally got American Gods, and it seems respectful to the source and to him as the creator of it, and on top of that turned into a really great property in a cinematic sense. Maybe that's just the expectation is, okay, yeah, you got lucky once, let's see if you can get lucky again. We're not ignoring the fact that you had a huge success in both your book and the film that came out, but this is only number 2, and these guys are interested in it, and we're interested in them more than we're interested in you and your story. So
yeah, I honestly, I think Beatmaster has it pretty spot on. This could be the I think, was it Fox that's doing this, the production of this? That this could be them banking on Lord and Miller doing a Russo brothers twist. Because before Captain America Civil War, they were mainly doing, they were mainly known for directing episodes of Community and, executive producing, seasons 1 through 3 and then season 5, or, Arrested Development, or, all like more comedies than, the dramas. So this could be them trying to say like, hey, can you guys do this too? Because, look at the Russos, they're now directing, one of the biggest movie franchises in the world. And we want to try to do that with you. This could be them, more of a, to put it in television terms, them doing a pilot to then see if it gets picked up for series. That picking up for series would be them doing more dramatic, Oscar-worthy directorial stuff, as opposed to the comedies that might get nominated but don't stand a chance.
The only thing I'd say to that is that the Russos were coming from the TV stuff directly into the film stuff, whereas Lord and Miller are already Lord and Miller.
Yeah.
You don't hire them on because you don't like what they do or because you want them to do things a different way. You hire them on because of their successes that they've already had, and it's up to them. I think they're picking their projects now, whereas the Russos came in and they were picked for something because they showed something that was appealing to the people who were in charge, Kevin Feige or whatever. So I think it's a different level of control at that point. But again, they absolutely, I think, are capable enough that they could surprise us, or they could do it the way that their vision is. And since we don't know the book, it maybe their vision is exactly right for what Andy is wanting to do.
Yeah. No,
well, if Andy Weir has a time traveling duffel bag, then these are the guys to handle this.
Wow. Yeah.
Speaking of the not the Russos, Lord and Miller, we got another story about them. The Lego Movie 2 is happening, and they are actually rewriting the script, and they will be tackling gender differences. The main issue I want them to tackle, and this is an important one, is that why, and actually it's totally a joke, but why the female characters, they still have the shape of the Lego brick, but yet you see the lines drawn in for their hips. Why not just shave that out?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure that out. I look at the character, and
you look at Wild Style, yeah.
And I don't know if maybe where the leg things are, maybe there's not enough internal space, but then they've got the Lego Friends figures, and maybe that's going to play into this because they want to do more with gender differences, and maybe that'll be, oh, well, Lego Friends, they're the skinny ones, and then you've got the normal Lego figures that are just, these guys that everybody loves.
There's some Geek Squad Lego figures that were sent out by, I think, web route or something to the Best Buy stores, and one of them is a female agent, which is, I was really excited that they did that they thought about having multiple genders represented. One of the things that I liked about the first Lego movie, though, is that there were female characters involved, because when I was a kid, I had my Mego superhero figures, and it never occurred to me that I was only supposed to play with the boy figures, or that the female figures are supposed to be secondary, or my Star Wars figures. Again, Leia was just as important to the stories that I was playing out with them as any other character, probably more important, because I recognized her, whereas I didn't recognize a lot of the other characters, or they were just slightly known, and they had a cool name and backing card for the figure from the packaging. But what I'm confused about, and not terribly confused, is it sounds like part of what they're doing with the gender differences is they're involving the Duplo blocks, because the kid in the movie is dealing with his little sister coming in and disrupting his play with her stuff and having her kind of take over, which is not necessarily a gender fight as it is an age fight. And certainly that girls might play differently than boys, but I think, again, you're going to see it more from the perspective because she's a young girl versus an older boy, and how they like to interact with their toys and stuff. At least it's not the girls are relegated to the pink aisle of Toys R Us, like a lot of other stuff, like even Toy Story went into, is, oh, you've got all your toys, you've got aliens and cowboys and all these other things, and I've got Barbie and Ken. I had a cousin who was my age. We all played with the stuff together, and she definitely had Barbie figures and a Wonder Woman Barbie style doll that I was happy to play with when I was there. But a lot of the stuff had a lot of crossover, and it didn't matter what our gender was.
And I want to throw to Patrick on this real quick before I do that. I want to say, because me, it's the exact opposite. I have a sister. She's 2 years younger than me, and this is our childhood room. I just took it over because she got married and moved out. But we had each our own toys. I was the kid sitting there, on my half of the room playing with my Legos and stuff, and she's over there playing with her Barbies, and very stereotypical. With me it was Legos and Transformers. With her it was Barbie and whatever else she played with. This is like 15 years ago, so I don't remember. And so I definitely relate to this because older brother, little sister, the voice upstairs is saying, hey, you got to let your sister play too. And it's like, oh, she's just going to bring her Barbies in here and I'm playing Lego, not Barbie, and all that stuff. But Patrick, what about you? I mean, like, what are your thoughts on that part? Like the whole, sibling dynamic.
Well, I didn't have a sister. I have a younger brother. And so we had in our basement a ping pong table that was covered in Lego. We built our own city, but we had the female characters back in the 80s. They all had the hair that came out to the side. And so they were an active part of our city, whether they're working in the medical center or they're at the house. Some of them were at the spaceport or in the castle. The leader of the castle was a queen, I think. Yeah. And or princess. I don't know. That's my brother's stuff. But I know my son's going to have Lego with female characters, and they'll just be part of that. So,
yeah, when I grew up in the 70s, the gender cutoff was more because of how the toys were sold to us than it was that we made those choices. And I think that we've grown and somewhat. I mean, look how hard it is still to get Marvel superhero figures with female characters in them. For a long time it was like, oh yeah, we don't want to sell these characters, we're selling them to boys. And it's like, well, what if the girls enjoy them? And so they were canceling cartoons because girls were watching instead of boys watching that they thought they couldn't sell them the toys. That's one of the reasons why I guess they said that they canceled Young Justice and some other stuff. Or Black Widow is the one who's riding on the motorcycle in Age of Ultron, but in the action figures, you see Captain America riding the motorcycle because Cap's got a bike and Black Widow doesn't. It's like, well, they both do to a degree, and they both should and can. But I agree. I think it's nice to see that your kids aren't going to have that same level of girls play with this and boys play with this, and girls cut hair and become hairdressers and stuff, and boys have war figures and stuff.
And when I was growing up, I liked Lego on its own. There were no ads on TV getting me to buy the latest sets. There was no cartoon series. It was just, you get the box, all you can see is what's on the front and what's on the back, and then there'd be a catalog in the middle, but you'd have to make up your own stories. And so built the world however I wanted to build it, and there was no marketing telling me, well, these sets are for boys, these sets are for girls. Now granted, there were the Paradisa sets, which were pink, and so it didn't really interest me when there's spaceships on the other page.
Right.
But there was one set that had a pool, and it was Paradisa and it was pink. I always thought, oh, it'd be cool to have that set because there's a pool, and I could have the characters in the pool. It was different than any other piece I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to have my guys have a pool party in there.
Oh yeah. See, now this is where I mean, you're putting me to shame, because I came into it. I think I had like 2 sets that weren't Star Wars, and but one was a space shuttle set, and then it was all like Star Wars sets. There's like, because growing up, I was big into Star Wars. I still am, but I mean, it was like, everything was Star Wars, and so it's like I even still have up on my dresser over here on top. I still have Lego Star Wars Legos up there, and so it was always I would build the ship, and then after a while I'd be like, well, let's modify, and then it was, let's take it apart and then build my own ship. And so that's basically what I did now. And actually, I think I have 3 up there that I built that are custom, and in my mind the physics work, but probably not really. So the other part I want to get your guys' opinion on is the fact that this is actually going to do, for a Lego movie, this is going to do something really interesting. This is going to tell the story from 2 perspectives as opposed to just one. So you're getting it both from Finn, the boy, and the first, the live action bits from his, where Emmett is the hero. But how is this going to look like for Finn's sister? Is Emmett going to be the hero, or is he just going to be a bumbling buffoon?
When I read that, the first thing that came to mind was, I think the book was The Pigman, where each chapter was written by alternating characters. So there's a boy and a girl, and they'd take turns writing chapters. And so you'd see each perspective, and they'd kind of comment on the previous one as if they're like, no, that's not how it happened. And so I think it would be interesting to see the movie in that sort of way. Like, okay, here's Finn. He's down there playing with his Lego, and this stuff happens. And then, oh, he's going to go wash up. Oh, now it's his sister playing. And oh, now this, that could be fun.
But with that, though, that almost seems more like a TV show than a movie.
Well, a few minutes of this, a few minutes of that, and then ultimately it comes together, and they have this big battle, but then they'll come together in the end, and everything works out, and we can cooperate and fight Lord Business or whoever the bad guy is. And
just real fast, have you guys ever read that Exquisite Corpse? It's a meme that was passed around for a while. It's an Exquisite Corpse is a story where one person takes the first line of the story and the next person writes the next line, and so on and so forth. And there was one going around that 2 students were given an assignment that they had to write together, and the girl started writing her story, and it was going to be a teenage girl, typical love story. And then the guy starts writing his part of it, and it becomes instantly about her character is killed off, and like Space Marines show up and start doing it, and she keeps going back and forth. But the Space Marines decide that what they really are looking for is love, and it's just like the whole back and forth that was so perfectly stereotypical, gender biased, but it was still incredibly funny. And you just made me think about that with the Pigman thing, which now I want to read. There was also a superhero book called Soon I Shall Be Invincible that was written with 2 perspectives. It was the villain of the book, who had killed, I guess, the main superhero, was trying to reestablish himself. And then the new heroine joining the Justice League style team and everything. It would go back and forth between the two. It was almost written like a blog, but from two different characters' perspectives. I don't know where I was going with any of this. It just reminded me about those things.
One trap I hope they don't fall into with this, though, is because it mentioned Duplo. And so I hope they don't say, oh, well, girls, they have these Duplo blocks, they're inferior, and, they're girly, and here's Emmett, he's the hero that we know from the last movie. I hope it's not Duplo versus Lego, because Duplo has its time and a place, and it's for babies. And hopefully this girl has grown up and moved past the Duplo. We can get into the actual real gender dynamics and not so much age dynamics.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I agree with that 100%, because I like to emphasize that, because like you were talking about with the Lego Friends line and stuff like that, I would rather see that. So I would hope that they would age the characters, 2 or 3 years to where, she's not playing with Duplo anymore. She's playing, with his Legos, but then with the Lego Friends line and stuff like that.
Yeah. And they probably want to market that because they need to.
Honestly, I could honestly look at that like, if there's a way to market like a combining of the two, like to where there's a little bit more, which Lego Movie would do that to where, we get, because it's all, even now we get the girl characters, the Lego Friends, they're, more built like actual people, as opposed to like bricks and basic shapes of people. Then maybe that would lead to, better Lego designs overall when it, with the merchandising and stuff like that.
Well, my niece she's 14 now, but she's never had any interest in Lego Friends. Even though they've got equestrian sets and she's big into horses, she really doesn't want Friends because she thinks the people look weird. And she's so used to the classic characters.
Yeah, right.
She's had handed down to her and gotten her on her own.
That's the stereotypical thing of female fantasy armor with the breast cutouts and everything, or whatever it is just, you don't need to change something to make it appeal to girls or women. If they're into what it is you're doing, then they're into it for what it is, not because you had to sexualize it or genderfy it for their purposes. It's like, no, there's certainly something to be said for maybe some young women want to see their armor look more attractive, and that's fine, but that's not what it should all be about. And if you have a character that's interested in that, then that could be the story that you tell. But yeah, I completely get it. It's like, oh, I like Legos. Oh, great. Well, here's Legos for girls. I don't like Legos for girls. I like Legos.
Exactly. Yeah. And then back in the day, they used to advertise girls and boys playing it with magazine ads. They didn't have TV ads, but they'd both be playing with the same sets. But I guess they think they need to do it separate. So
I don't know. I look at this, since I work at Target, and I walk down the aisles all the time, and I see how they have the aisles set up right now for Lego. They have the Lego Friends and the Disney Legos on one side of the aisle, and then the other is the not necessarily licensed, because the licensed stuff like Star Wars, Minecraft go on the other side, but the superheroes, the Marvel ones, are on this the side over the opposite of it, to where, and then it's like the more generic, like architecture, and then regular buildings and stuff like that. Opposite, I could see them, sort of then blending those two aisles together. That's my hope. My other fear that I have, and I don't know if you guys share this, is I'm hoping we don't get outcry of people going, well, why isn't there a female writer? Just because, like, I feel like we could fall into this trap here of it's being written by guys. How are they going to tell the girls' point of view when they're not girls and stuff like that? Like, that's one thing that just sort of popped in my head as I'm looking at this, like the whole, well, boys versus girls thing. Well, how they know they're not girls and stuff like that, As
someone who sometimes tells stories, it would be really horrible for me if I was only able to ever tell stories from a white 40-something-year-old male's perspective. So I get why there needs to be more representation from writers of different genders, identities, races, everything else. I completely agree with that because it brings in new stories that maybe us crazy old white guys can't come up with on our own. Or maybe we can, but we just don't because it's not what we're used to doing. I absolutely am in love with having a more inclusive Hollywood and more inclusive creativity across the board in books, in comics, and everything. But yeah, the idea of pushing it so far as that only women can tell stories about women and only African Americans can tell stories about African Americans. It's just something that if you are a person who is a male that is telling those stories, you need to be really conscious of what you're telling and making sure that you don't just follow stereotypes because that's all you've known.
I only bring that up just because, I could see people doing that when they're watching a movie like, oh, that was a good movie. But wait, there was no female writers. I'm mad now. Really, they're probably looking at this more of from the kid perspective that I think they, Lord Miller or the other writers involved might have daughters and they might see how they play with their toys and stuff like that and the stories that they tell. It reminds me, I don't know if you guys ever saw the YouTube series on Geek and Sundry written by a kid where they had kids in general telling these stories and then they had it was either animated or they had actors acting out what the kids were talking about. And it's a great example because here you had boys and you had girls and they were telling completely different stories, and then sometimes they were telling very similar stories, and it was just it was what it was. And it's just, I don't really have a point with this.
Axe Cop is a very good example of that. Axe Cop was the guy who was drawing out the stories that his little brother was telling him, making up. I also love seeing the artwork of girls who've drawn creatures or superheroes that they've designed and stuff like that, and then a more established comic book style artist or fantasy artist has taken that and drawn it to look more in lines with popular art and everything, and you see it kind of taking that next level. I love that kind of thing because, again, the imagination of kids is something that is so valuable because they are fearless, and when we get older, I think we allow ourselves to feel like, oh, well, that's too far out there for me to reach for, and I'm just going to play it safer in this little book house over here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Any last thoughts on this before we move on?
Lord Miller should stick to Lego-related movies, and that's it.
What about Clone High?
Well, I don't know anything about that, but maybe.
Oh,
that was their first thing that they got success from. It was an MTV series that lasted for one season. Basically, the premise was these clones of famous people are in this high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a really good cartoon.
Yeah, on MTV. Well, they also had Daria and Beavis and Butthead, but after that when they were, after Beavis and Butthead and Daria, when this came out, it was in the 2000s when it was all about the real world. But yeah, so that's going to do it for the news, and we will be right back. Real quick, before we jump into the ElseWords, we are curious. We want to hear from you. How can we improve the show? You can tell us by going to bit.ly/EN survey 2017. That is capital E, capital N, capital S, then Urvey 2017. And you will, and on there, you'll answer 5 questions, I think, about, how can we improve the show? Like bringing on, do we need to bring on more guests like Patrick Delahanty? Yes. Do we need to talk less about things? Probably. Whatever it is, you let us know. We will do our best to accommodate, and we think the people who have already done that. Patrick, tell us about the stuff that you're doing. Because you are a busy man.
Yeah. Let's see. I do a website, fancons.com, which spun off of a site, animecons.com. And so comic conventions, anime conventions, sci-fi cons, fantasy cons, furry cons, steampunk cons, video game cons, they're all covered there and listed worldwide. And so that takes up a lot of my free time. We also do a podcast, Anime Cons TV. And every Monday we have a new episode, and we're finishing up our 9th year of that.
Nice.
And did you see anything about that story about the comic convention that was sued for saying it was a Comic-Con and how I guess it was just established that the cease and desist or the gag order that they had on them was considered illegal. And so it's up in the air now of whether they get to call themselves a Comic-Con after San Diego wanted to sue them out of existence.
Yeah, San Diego Comic-Con is suing Salt Lake City Comic-Con. And they don't really have a case. It's become a generic term. But also they had tried to trademark it a while back, but now that was found to be generic, but they're still, I don't know. I've lost track of where that case has gone, and I'm just waiting for it to be over to see, okay, what's the final thing. I don't think they've got anything to stand on that shouldn't hold up, because there's so many people using the term Comic-Con now, whether it's spelled with 2 C's or 3 C's by 2 separate words or hyphenated or not. It's all generic as far as I'm concerned. It's everybody can call it Comic-Con. If you wanted to trademark it, it's too late.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Although it's always odd to see the things that can be trademarked, because the fact that DC and Marvel hold a trademark on the term superhero always sat wrong with me.
Hasbro is desperately trying to trademark Transformers names, and it can't do some of them. Like, I think it was trying to get Bumblebee.
Yeah, it was trying to sue DC Comics because they have the Teen Titan or the Titan Bumblebee. And I'm like, so are they going to go after the Tuna Company next?
Yeah, and they can't trademark Jazz. So now every time you see that Transformer, it's Autobot Jazz on every toy.
So silly.
Yeah.
So silly.
We can't have Hot Rod anymore. It's Hot Rodimus. Yeah. So that.
It's not anything unless Judd Nelson is doing the voice.
Yes. Yeah, the best version of the Transformers franchise movies.
But yeah, so and we'll let you plug again, at the end of your stuff. But yeah, it's cool. I kid you not when I people when I say he is a busy man.
Patrick,
if you're not,
correct me if I'm remembering this wrong. Didn't you make the first Dancing Groot?
Yes, I made after I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, within 2 weeks, I made a dancing Groot. Other people had made Groot. They'd made him in their gardens or whatever, the little baby Groot. I made one that actually dances by getting a dancing flower and changing it. Yeah.
And I remember people I knew were like, oh my God, someone made a dancing Groot. That's so amazing. Like, I totally know who that dude is. I met that guy. That guy is awesome.
I brought it to a convention. I finished it. It's like, oh, well, let's go to this convention. And there was a writer from one of the Guardians of the Galaxy comics there. And so he got pictures of it. And I had posted on Vine and I had posted it on Tumblr. And it really never went anywhere. And then slowly it started to catch on. And then suddenly the floodgates opened and it went viral and got over 1 million hits. MTV, CNET, a whole bunch of outlets covered it, and over 1 million views on YouTube, and I've made it zero money
you're living the big life in Hollywood, and you're set for life. You've got billions of dollars.
It annoys me that there's ads on that video, and I have not made a single cent from it because the song that's used, not even 30-second clip of that Michael Jackson song, it got monetized by MCA or whoever has it. And so, even though it's terrible quality, it's a short clip, it should be fair use. And I put that in like, no, this should be fair. And they fight back, say, nope. So unless I want to risk a strike on my account or, get lawyers involved, it's like, all right. And by now the ship has sailed, so I'm not making. Even though it got ads on that, I wouldn't make any money. So
did you actually get people asking you how you made it?
Oh yeah, so many people, and I since then I have never used the phrase "shut up and take my money" because I heard it so often.
Oh yeah,
everybody was saying that. Shut up and take my money. There's so many comments in that video, and a lot of people were asking, how did you make this? And so I posted pictures of the production process on my Facebook page, and people were like, oh, I can't find one of those dancing flowers. The prices on eBay for those shot up. I got mine for $27. After that video, they went up to like hundreds. I was thinking, damn, I should have bought more.
You made a lot of other people a lot of money and got nothing for it.
Nothing. I did get to meet James Gunn at Dragon Con.
Oh, awesome.
Tons of people were coming up to me and say, oh, I need a picture of that. And then I was walking through their Hall of Fame where they have people do autographs. Sean Gunn. It's like, oh my God, Dancing Groot, I need a picture. He calls me over to the table. The autograph is just about to start, and I'm cutting in front of everybody just so he can get a picture with Dancing Groot. I never got a picture of him. I should have asked, like, oh, can we get a picture together? But I didn't want to be that guy because everybody else is waiting to pay. He got a picture of Dancing Groot, sent it to his brother, and then I see Grant Imahara from Mythbusters. It's like, oh, Patrick, Dancing Groot, can I get a picture? And he went to the green room and showed it to James Gunn. And so I was at a party for Night Attack that night. Ali Spagnola was playing, and I have Dancing Groot up in the air, and somebody runs in and says, James Gunn outside. James Gunn's outside. Come. And so I go outside. James Gunn is standing there. It's like, can we get a picture together? And oh, sure. So I have a few photos of us standing together with a baby Groot in the middle. And then there's my friend that was taking pictures just kept taking pictures, which is great. But you can see other people start to come in to join in the photos. And so I was like, okay. And it's like, okay, it's getting really crowded here. I was like, I'll let you go. Thank you. I bumped into him later. And it's like, hey. But yeah, and so I follow him on Twitter ever since. So that's where I get all my news.
Yeah, I follow him on Facebook. He seems like an incredibly terrific guy, and and certainly I don't think that he or Sean would ever be adverse to you taking a picture with them, but especially knowing what you made. But it was just so funny to see this and everybody talking about it, including I think James had posted on his Facebook at the time, and going, oh yeah, Patrick did that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I really wish I could have had gone to the premiere of Volume 2 with Baby Groot, but missed that opportunity. And so for the last, ever since Volume 2 opened, Baby Groot has been on the set of Tech News Today and Tech News Weekly here at Twit.
Yep.
So you can see him sitting in the corner in the background.
That's the one thing that I would do, and it's funny because I got the Funko Pops. You can see both of them in the back behind me. But I've got the regular sized version of adult Groot and then the oversized version of Baby Groot. So I like doing that reverse. It's like, and I would do it in the podcast and just be like, all right, and he comes in frame. Just when I was bored and Corey was ranting about something, I'm like, all right, I need a comedic moment for myself, just for myself. Pull it in here. But no, yeah, that's honestly cool. And I forgot about that. And so you mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember watching that, in the live feed when they're like, Baby Groot. I'm like, oh my gosh. So the convention before where it got all big, that was before Dragon Con?
Yeah, that was Stockton Con, which is not a great convention, honestly. It's very small, but it happened to be right after we finished it. And my wife, then fiance, and she sculpted the head and I did the body, and she painted the head and I molded the arms. But we brought it and everybody needed a picture.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's jump into our segment 2. That's the ElseViews, which I think we found Corey's. It's your Groot. But this is the section of the show where we talk about movies, TV shows, basically anything that's on our nerdy minds or nerdy hearts that we want to talk about. Patrick, I actually want to start with yours because I'm a comic book reader. I've got way too many comic books in front of me. I've got way too many comic books on my tablet that I need to read before Wednesday. It's not going to happen, but it's the truth. And you're actually recommending a comic book. This is
yes.
Corey hasn't done this in a while, but so please tell me about Back to the Future.
Back to the Future is a comic series that started right after the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future. So it started in 2015, around October 21st. And so it's been running about 2 years, and they've done 24 issues. So they're averaging one a month. There were 2 that came out in October, none came out in September. So it's a little haphazard, but it's averaging 1 a month. And it's one of the writers on it is Bob Gale from the Back to the Future movie series. And it follows in the canon and the continuity. It all fits in. It's unlike the cartoon series, which is just crazy.
Right.
This is actually like if Back to the Future continued, this would be the story. And so it has more traveling through time, and it has introducing new characters and new time frames to Hill Valley. So you get to see Hill Valley in the 30s and the 60s and the 70s. You get to see the latest storyline is learning why Uncle Joey went to jail.
Oh, good.
And so it's really interesting to see more of the McFly family history, and then they change the timeline and how they have to change it back. And so Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time. And so this is, I don't subscribe to many comic series, and this is one of those few, and I love it so much. So if anybody's a fan of Back to the Future, they really need to be reading this.
Did they do anything to explain away the differences of what is the girlfriend's name? Is it Jennifer?
Oh, why they changed actresses? No, that's just
If they do something like they switch Becky's on Roseanne and they actually like give you a reasoning. No, that's terrific. And this is one of those things where everybody loves Back to the Future, and of course we're never going to see a continuation of Back to the Future, the films, as much as we've wished for it and keep wishing for hoverboards, because it's become an impossibility without someone redoing the movies, which I'm not a huge fan of. But to take that and say, okay, but you can continue the story with these characters and the actors in your mind of who they were and everything, and do this. Buffy the Vampire Slayer has had a very good, long success in comics since the TV series ended. At first, they weren't in continuity, but then they switched it over and started over again, where they did it as continuing seasons. And I love that idea, because some things you don't want to let go, but realistically, can't ever be what they were again. And this is a great thing.
Yeah, I wish they would do more Firefly comics. They've done some with Serenity, but I want a whole series like they're doing with Back to the Future, and it's great. And I hope it keeps going for a long time. They also did a spin-off of the Back to the Future called Biff to the Future.
Oh, man.
That shows you the timeline where Biff has the almanac, and it shows you what led up into his empire.
Oh, wow.
His casino and his crazy hair millionaire, getting into politics and all that crazy stuff that would never really happen. So.
I thought I read that, but it was called The Art of the Deal.
Yeah, there's some similarities there, which is odd, but Biff to the Future. It's a short series. I don't remember how many issues there were, but that's.
I was going to say I thought it was the Hot Tub Time Machine 2.
Yeah,
so that is a great choice.
Yeah, and that's through IDW, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get it on Comixology, so I don't have to store physical issues. That's becoming an issue at the house.
Yeah. Who would do something like that at all? I mean, I don't know. That's really weird. I told Corey I went overboard this past week on comic books, but I don't feel bad for it because the comic book shop that I go to has a hole in their roof, or had a hole in their roof. Hopefully they got it fixed. And we've had a lot of rain, so I'm like, yeah, I support dry comic books. But yeah, so that's great, and we will have linked to Back to the Future through Comixology, and also go to your comic book shop. They probably have it on back stock, on the back.
Yeah,
and at the very least, they can order you the trade paperbacks.
Yeah, they've done some of those.
All right, Corey, do you got a nerding out for us in ElseViews?
Well, I'm kind of in I'm in a place of I haven't had a lot of chance to watch stuff this past week. This week I'm doing which should be catching up on series that I haven't been able to watch because my wife is traveling. So I could watch whatever I want, and yet I got it in on my craw that I'm gonna watch a bunch of the Hercule Poirot movies. I know that there is a Murder on the Orient Express remake coming out pretty soon. I'm not sure how I feel about how it looks, but I like a lot of the actors and actresses in it. But there was a movie that I really liked as a kid that was Hercule Poirot and had, I didn't realize this until today, Diana Rigg in it, called, not Murder on the Nile, that was one of the other ones, but Peter Ustinov, or I'm going to butcher every name right now. If I could only get my Plex open. I was watching The Great Muppet Caper, which was a mystery movie with the Muppets. It was the follow-up to the Muppet movie. And he was in that, and I was like, oh yeah, I should go and see if I can find this film. And when I did, it allowed me to find that there were like 5 other movies where he played Poirot. A lot of them were made for TV. And so I will have to see what all is available, because a lot of that stuff is hard to find. Evil Under the Sun is the movie I was thinking of. So I haven't really watched these yet, but this is going to be where my week goes. Murder mysteries and Agatha Christie mysteries in general are something that I've really loved, but it's every so often that I actually see something that seems like a quality one. And mysteries in general, I don't see a lot of those things coming out. You see a lot of suspense stuff, but that classic mystery character, unless you're watching PBS on Sundays, there's not a ton of that stuff out there anymore. And I'd like to see some of that kind of make its way back. So I'm hoping, if nothing else, Murder on the Orient Express does well enough that it increases that. Much like I once wished that the G.I. Joe movie had success strictly so I could see ninjas return to the big screen.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Alfred Molina playing Poirot on the new movie, The Mystery on the Orient Express?
It's not Alfred Molina playing it, is it? I thought it was... No, it's Kenneth Branagh.
Oh, is it?
I think Branagh's playing Poirot.
Either way, I mean, I feel either way with that. Kenneth Branagh or Alfred Molina, I'm like, good choice.
Yeah.
You know?
Alfred Molina would be a pretty terrific Poirot. I would definitely watch that movie too. But this has got Johnny Depp's in it, maybe a little overexposed, but Daisy Ridley's in it. A lot of people that I would like to see bring a sort of gravitas to the film are in there. So is Judi Dench in this? Just in general, I'm excited potentially for it, but I'm treating it with a bit of trepidation, because how does Hollywood handle this? And are they going to get kind of crazy and try to change the ending and stuff to surprise viewers who are familiar with the story from before? I don't love when they do that. I don't want to see another Demi Moore Scarlet Letter. Olivia Colman is in it. Mm-hmm. Michelle Pfeiffer. I really want to love this. I hope I do. So we'll see. But in the meantime, I get to visit some of the classics and go from there. There was another one that I am trying to find, which is almost impossible. I think it's from 1978, called Who Killed the Great Chefs of Europe? And it was a comedy murder mystery. It has the guy who plays Pops on The Goldbergs is one of the main characters in it. And it was just one of those things where all of these chefs were being murdered in a similar way to what their famous recipe was. And just things like that I watched all over the place. Something's Afoot was a play that they used to play on Showtime, a musical Broadway play that had Gene Stapleton in it. Love to be able to find that. We'll see. But right now, this is a good jumping off point, and it means that I'm not getting anything done while my wife is away.
Nice. Yeah, and it is Kenneth Branagh. I don't know why Google says that Alfred Molina is playing or has played Hercule Poirot in Murder on the Orient Express, but whatever.
There's probably been multiple versions of that movie before.
But I didn't even find it on his IMDb, but yeah, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, Hercule Poirot, check it out. It's also
2001 TV movie of Murder on the Orient Express.
Okay. Yeah, and I think it's also a PBS TV series that they have, the Poirot.
They had a long series of Poirot for PBS.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So mine is sticking with the British theme that me and Corey have got going on here unintentionally. Mine is the Russell Howard Hour. So this is in the vein of Last Week Tonight, in all honesty. for us Americans here. This is Russell Howard. He's a stand-up comedian over in the United Kingdom. He had a show on the BBC called Good News with Russell Howard, or Russell Howard's Good News, and that got canceled, or well, it did not get commissioned for a new series. And then Sky goes, "We'll take you," and gave him a whole hour. And it's honestly, even though Russell Howard's Good News came on after The Watershed, so he could swear and stuff like that, it seems like here that now that he's on Sky One, it's like, all right, we can swear. All right, let's do it. They've had 5 episodes so far. They're all news related. And the one thing I love about this show, and it's the same thing I liked about Good News, is the fact that he doesn't focus on the negative. Especially with how the society is today and how we see the news, where this bad things happen and this bad things happen. He will talk about those, but then he always ends the show with looking at the hashtag RHGoodDeed or RHDeeds, and just how, like, some of the things that people are doing for others, around the UK. This past episode, he actually started with an article, with a news story that he had found throughout the week that talked about since 2011, I think it was 2011, the self-harm rate in the United Kingdom on teenage women has gone up, or teenage girls has gone up because of self-confidence issues and stuff like that. And he played a clip from, he's talking about, like, well, what do you expect when you look at, who their inspiration is? And he plays a clip from this YouTube video about Kim Kardashian saying how she gets the perfect selfie, where she knows her perfect angle, and then she goes and takes 300 photos. I'm like, how are your arms not bigger from, just the plyometrics of sitting there holding your phone in this spot to take 300 photos? And I'm assuming you're not using burst, where you're just sitting there, doing all the minor adjustments and stuff like that, and then picking the one photo that's going to go on your Instagram to get liked by millions of people. This is how he started the show, because he was frustrated for the fact that one of their papers, I think it was The Sun, this was on page 30. This was 23 pages behind their page 3 girl, who's, big busty girl, topless or whatever. And, and all this behind other issues that you look at and like, are these more important than, the fact that your future women here are harming themselves and all that? And I'm like, wow, this is really great, telling a story. And then he ended it with, like, hey, if you're a girl and you're feeling a little bit bummed, here's the video to cheer you up. And it was one of the funniest videos. I'm sitting there laughing, and I wanted to show it to my mom. She's like, oh, I already saw that. I'm like, she saw a video before I did. What? Come on, that's not fair. But it's a video of a lady, like a grandma, showing her husband a magic trick of making the penny appear in the bottle. He looks down, and she squeezes the bottle, shoots him in the face with the water. It's just a classic, like one of those little YouTube videos to make you laugh. I honestly, I can't say much more good things about Russell Howard, the Russell Howard Hour. They have interviews with people. Like the last episode had an interview with Ed Sheeran on there. One of my favorite segments on there is called Playground Politics, where it's Russell Howard. He's going across the world and is talking about like money or different issues to kids and getting their opinion on it and all this stuff. And some of those kids, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the video that will prove that this kid is going to do something bad or something. No, it's not that horrible, but it's like some of these kids, you're like, they really think that? And it's funny. They paint it in a funny way. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It's a show I watch because I like Russell Howard, and I think if you like Russell Howard, you will enjoy it too. And it airs on Sky over in the UK. If you want to help support the show, support the network, gncast.com/subscribe. And on there, you'll find our Patreon. You do that simple as $1 a month. You will get bonus content. I believe at $3, you get the Peter Fisher's app review show, which has been me and Brad so far doing it, where I talk about exploding kittens and then why I'm going to jail soon. No, I'm joking. The card game Exploding Kittens, it's an app now, and then the comic book reader that I use. And all, so yeah, it's fun. Patreon.com/Galactic Netcasts, or very simply, gncasts.com/support.
You. Yeah, you. Is there anybody else listening to this? Come over here. Yous like the show, right? You maybe want to hear more? You know, for the low rock-bottom price of $3 or more a month to the Galactic Network's Patreon, you maybe just might hear these guys and gals talking about their favorite programmable things on them Dick Tracy telemobile phony things you folks seem to like so much around here. That's right. When you become a super partner or higher, you get the Applicably Galactic App Reviews Show, where Peter Fisher asks GN podcast hosts and guests their favorite apps on their phones and tablets. Is that or is that not what I just said? Yeah, but I thought just to be a bit more clear. Clear? What do you mean? Forget about it. Scram, kid, you're bad for business. But I'm the host. Why don't you rest that voice of yours for the podcast and leave the promotion for us, professional talkers? Applicably Galactic App Reviews, a special like for GN Patreon super partners, here on Galactic Networks.
We're going to jump right into the ElseWords, and this is our big discussion topic. So, Regal Cinemas, they are going to do flex pricing, essentially, where for certain movies, they will charge you more money. For box office bombs, they will charge you less. Now, what do you guys think about this? I will point out, I will throw it to Patrick first, who has a vested interest in this, because he does participate in the Cord Killers Night Attack movie drafts. So yes. this could have a big effect on the draft.
Yeah, the big movies could be bigger and the bombs could bomb more. And ultimately, I think that Hollywood needs to be more concerned about that, because if they're getting a movie that's not getting a big audience and now they're not getting as much money from it, that could be an issue. Although I don't expect them to lower the price if the movie's bad. I expect the price we're paying now to be the bad movie price. And if we're seeing Thor Ragnarok tonight, we're going to be paying $20 for a ticket. If we're seeing Gem and the Holograms, it's going to be that's going to be the normal $10 ticket.
And then you're also going to see your therapist, because why are you going to see Gem and the Holograms?
Yeah, well, that movie made, $2 million total?
Right. But do you feel like that it's going to be... do they have an adjustment that they're thinking of ahead of time? Like, we seriously think this movie's going to bomb, so we're going to try to lower the price on it? Or is it going to be an adjustment like, hey, the fish smells like it's turning bad, we should run a special on the fish? And in this case, the fish is, the newest Michael Bay movie, or what? That's kind of my question. Is it going to be adjustable pricing? Like 1 week, we thought this movie was going to do really well, and then the next week it's the $5 thing, because we used to have the cheap theaters for that.
Yeah, and I would go to see matinee movies where I would actually save some real money by seeing the movie in the afternoon instead of going in the evening. Nowadays, there's still matinee pricing, but you save $1, so there's really no advantage. If there's a particular showing, maybe some Tuesday night showings when people don't normally go to the movies, maybe those are cheaper, as long as they're actually discounting the prices and not just raising all the other prices.
And also, does having it be a lower price actually encourage people to go see it? It's like, this movie is the one I want to see is $15, but the movie that we were kind of considering but weren't really sure on is only $7. Let's go see the $7 movie and save some money. Or do you go to the thing that you actually wanted to see in the first place? Or does it encourage you to get out of your chair and go see it? Like my wife the other day said, hey, Assassin's Creed is available to watch for free. She goes, didn't that movie just come out? I said, I guess for some people it did, but it totally makes sense why it's free to watch on HBO.
Yeah, when I'm looking at the movie listings, when my wife and I say, let's go see a movie, we'll look and see what's playing. I don't know if we're going to be looking at this one's only $3, but this one's $8. We'll see the movie we want to see. And it would be nice to know, we go to the movies, it's going to cost us $10 a ticket. Then we buy popcorn. It's not, if we go at noon, then it's going to be $8, and the popcorn's going to be maybe cheaper too. But then if we go later, I don't want to have to do math.
And are we going
and the movie
surge pricing?
Yeah, surge pricing. That's no.
Oh yeah. But the movie pass thing is already kind of a question as to if it's going to cause people to go see more movies or not. It seems like that's a very specific audience who's going to say, oh, well, I want to see all the new movies, and so the movie pass thing makes sense for me. But for most people, it's going to the movies is somewhat of an ordeal. I go to matinees not just because they're cheaper, but so I don't have to deal with a lot of other audience attendees and long lines and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm still going to see the movie when I'm going to see the movie. It's just a matter of if I go at 2:00 in the afternoon versus 6:00 in the evening, I'll be able to find seating. I can have my legs stretched out on the bars at the front of the theater, whatever else. So it still seems odd to me to have a shifting scale, other than the fact that some movies maybe don't expect to be blockbusters, and trying to price them all the same at blockbusters doesn't make a ton of sense already. Should I be expected to pay the same amount of money for a World of Warcraft that is, to me, not super interesting versus a Star Wars Force Awakens? No, that's part of the reason why I wait for Warcraft to come out on cable, is because I don't want to spend the money on it in the theater. But if it was $6 versus $12, maybe that is the point where I say, okay, well, yeah, because it's not the same level of film.
I look at this and it gives there's been a year to date from the weekend starting October 20th, 2017 to last year at that time. There's been a negative 4.8% change in what the movies have done in that year. So 9.06 billion versus $8.62 billion. So yes, it is a negative trend, but part of me wonders, are we looking at it too close? Are the movie executives looking at it too close for this trend, when maybe overall, like over course of 10, 15, 20 years, the trend is still going up, or it is staying more level?
Yeah, I think if you compare this to climate change, we can't just look at the weather today and say, oh, well, it's colder today, so whatever. We have to look at the long-term trend. And yeah, if they're just looking at 1 year, they can have a down year. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, everybody's going to Netflix, the sky is falling. Yeah, because honestly, the movie's coming out. I was looking at the movie draft list for the winter. I'm like, all right, there's like 2 movies here I want to see. The rest is crap.
Yeah.
There's
so let me ask
there's stories going around today that they're calling it the Weinstein Company's fall, which is the new post-scandal Weinstein Company movie that just came out, is an Amityville horror sequel, Amityville: The Awakening. It has grossed $742. It's only in 10 theaters. But the other side of it is that it's also, I guess, free to stream on Google.
They gave it away for free,
right,
for a weekend. I know, because I accidentally clicked yes. I'm like, I don't watch the Amityville shit. I don't watch the shit.
I don't even want to support it with a pity click.
No, it wasn't even that. It was connecting to the Disney or to the Movies Anywhere, and it was right there. And I'm like, I'm just like hurrying around. I thought I clicked no, and it's like, God damn it! Now it's in my movies.
Well, also under scandal is Jeepers Creepers 3, which Frank Silva is another side of people who are pretty ticked off at some of the directors in Hollywood. Jeepers Creepers 3 came out for 2 specific days in theaters, and then was part of the Halloween lineup on the Sci-Fi Channel the last weekend. So we have movies. I think the new Chucky film that came out just in the last couple of weeks is also streaming on Netflix for, maybe not in America, maybe it is, I haven't checked. But so there's a Child's Play movie that is in the theaters and on Netflix at the same time. This is going to be more of a thing, is the convenience of having home theaters set up. Is that what's stealing people away? Or is it that we just know what films are going to tank ahead of time, that the audience is more sophisticated than the people who are making the movies?
Also, just so you're aware, it's not a Child's Play movie. It is Cult of Chucky.
Right. It's Child's Play 97, the Leprechaun in space.
So Patrick, I'll ask you this. I'll give you two choices. You can either do the movie, and I think I might know the answer by doing this, but you can do the movie pass, $10 a month, but you're limited to one ticket, one movie, one movie a day and all that stuff. Or you can do the surge pricing where there's no limitations on it. You can go see the 3D if you want. You can go see it at IMAX. Which one would you lean more towards?
Movie pass has limits, so you can't do 3D or.
Yeah. Movie pass.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah. Movie pass, it is select theaters. It is one movie a day for one ticket, but it doesn't include 3D. It doesn't include IMAX. I think that's the only limitations.
The nearest IMAX theater is an hour away from me, so
San Francisco, right?
Actually, it's out near Vacaville. It's
okay.
Towards Sacramento, but San Francisco is just a little bit longer.
Next on the Californians.
Yeah, I'll go with the movie pass because I don't know if I've ever seen more than one movie in a theater in the same day, other than like marathon. I saw Back to the Future trilogy, a special presentation, and I don't. It's not normally a thing I'd do.
Yeah.
So $10, see all the movies I want a month. Sure. Because I'd probably average more than one movie a month. So in the end, I'll come out ahead.
Yeah.
And see, I'm the opposite. I rarely go see the movies in the theater, and it's either I'm going to see the new Marvel movie, or my wife is shaking me out to see the new whatever horror movie it is that she's excited about. Like I'm still dreading the fact that we're probably going to have to go see Jigsaw, but there's plenty of months where I don't wind up going to the theater anymore, and it's not because I'm adverse to it. It's just, again, it's a luxury that often doesn't seem to pay off. There isn't enough stuff that I find interesting. But I'm with you that I don't see that I'm losing anything by not getting 3D or IMAX.
I think if I had Movie Pass, I would go see movies again a lot more often. I'd be like, all right, I get a few hours free. I think I'm just going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy again.
Right.
But now I'm like, I don't know. It's be $10. I saw it 3 times. It's like, I've already spent $30 on that movie, and I know I'm going to buy it. So, but if I had Movie Pass, I'd probably be there. Like, wife's out of town. I'm going every night.
Yeah, this week, if Thor Ragnarok had been out a week earlier while my wife is away, that might have been my week. Is just going to see Thor every day.
Yeah, and. But for the time being, I'll just use Movies Anywhere combined with Vudu's disc to digital, and maybe get movies for $2.
Yeah, there you go.
Using that little trick. You guys, I know you've talked about Movies Anywhere, but you know that trick, right?
No, explain to me.
Yeah, sell Corey on it, because I tried last week to sell Corey on the whole Movies Anywhere thing, and he kept going, "No, I'm old and curmudgeon-y."
Well, I am old and curmudgeonly.
Movies Anywhere is free, so sign up for that. Get the 5 free movies.
5 free movies,
and then you have everything on Amazon, Google, iTunes, and Vudu, which is convenient if you ever change platforms. But Vudu has a service called Disc to Digital, and using an app on your phone, it uses GPS with your billing address, so it knows if you're home. So you can't go to Best Buy and do this. But you can scan a Blu-ray and for $2 get the digital version. And if it's one of the Movies Anywhere studios, it goes everywhere. It won't scan Disney movies, but Universal and Warner Brothers I've definitely done. If it's a DVD, if you don't have the Blu-ray, you can pay $5 for the HD or $2 for SD. And you might be wondering, well, I already have these movies. Why do I want to pay for the digital version? I can just put the disc in. What if you don't have the movie? What if you look up the UPC code on the website?
What if I just borrow movies from friends and stuff?
What if you're like, I want to watch Harry Potter. Oh, it's $5 to rent? Hold on. Harry Potter, Blu-ray. Oh, look, it's showing me the packaging, or this website brought up the UPC code. Let me just scan that with my phone, and $2. You have Harry Potter everywhere digitally.
That is insane, and that is such.
Not that I've done this because it might be, but in theory this could work. So until they fix it,
and it is again such a hackers / pirates will do whatever they can to get the stuff because the cost, not even necessarily because of the cost, but often sometimes just because they can. And so what does the industry do to make things easier for the average user so that it becomes like, oh, well, that's too much of a hassle, and I'm just going to go through the service now instead. And what is this service going to do so I don't feel so bad about like not having to hack this?
You could go through some janky website and get something potentially dangerous that might not even be the movie, and maybe halfway through it turns into porn. You never know what you're going to get. Or pay $2 and now you have it in the cloud, which it's hooked into whatever service you want. And so you don't even have to, I could be at the airport and like, oh, I forgot to download this movie. Let me just put it on my phone. I watch it on the plane.
God, I love it.
I just hope Movies Anywhere goes to other studios because I'm loving this service. It's just so convenient. My iTunes list went from, I think like 20 movies to 80. And that's before I even did any disc to digital with legit copies that I owned.
Yep.
Like, I want the digital version of this. And then I can put the disc in storage. And
it sounds like when Comixology started selling stuff and it started getting popular, and then I'd see all these people like, I haven't bought comics in years, but I just spent $100 on comics because Comixology was having a sale, and like I just got the entire Avengers line and I got the entire Guardians line and stuff. It's like I'm saving so much money and yet I'm so broke right now.
I did the disc to digital, and then I was like, I want to do this with TV shows. If I could get rid of these huge box sets and just have it all digitally.
Yeah.
And then I look at my books. Oh, comics, I want to do it with that. I want to do it with books. I want to convert to ebooks and just want everything out of my house. I just want it all digital. I will pay the $2 to convert this big, thick volume of some book to an ebook. Let me do it.
We cut to 5 years from now when all this has happened and Patrick's house is just, it's like the ultra modern, all white. There's not even furniture there because he's like, no, I want it all digital. It's all digital couches and all that stuff.
This really ruins the Burgess Meredith episode of Twilight Zone where he's in the future and he finally can read and he breaks his glasses. It's like, oh no, I can just make the text bigger on my Kindle.
They need to reshoot that episode and have it end that way. Shot for shot remake, and then just tweak the ending.
Yep. And they can use a computer animatronic Burgess Meredith because that's a thing too.
Yeah. Like when they do the shot for shot remake of Back to the Future, but they change gigawatts to gigawatts.
Yep. Do you have an interest in this? The back to the original story?
Personally, not really for me because I don't have a Regal cinemas around me. The two that I have that are here are Goodrich and AMC, which bought AMC bought the GQT or whatever it was. I forget what it used to be.
But if it stretches out, if Regal is the trendsetter and then other people jump on board with it, I was not expecting the monkey wrench of making the other successful movies more expensive. That was a big knife in the back of that plan. But
they say they're going to lower prices, but we all know that the lower prices are the prices now, and everything else is just more. Yeah, that's how they always do it. That's their excuse to raise prices.
Yeah, I mean that I could see blowing up in their faces of, oh well, movies are $20. Screw movies. I just heard about this really great way to make my DVDs only cost $2 and I can watch them anywhere.
I'll say it this way. I'll say it this way. If it does that and I'm feeling like watching, in 3D or in IMAX, which there's not an IMAX around me, it's like the same thing. It's like a 45-minute to an hour drive away. And so it's, the increased price because it's a popular movie. And then it's an extra $5 or $3 or whatever because it's 3D or because it's IMAX. Then I'm upset and would really wish that MoviePass included 3D and IMAX. I don't know. It's because it'd be very tempting for me to go into the comic book fan of, you guys were never fans of the source material and stuff like that with, because it would be the Marvel movies, the DC movies, the Star Warses that would be getting the upcharge. It would, and for some of it would benefit, like a lot of the Amazon movies, like the last year's or this past couple months, Big Sick. I probably would have seen more people in there as opposed to me going on opening night in my town sitting in there with 4 other people in the movie.
But do you think the Big Sick is going to be in an IMAX theater? That's the question. Even something even if something that would deserve to be an IMAX, like Valerian, by the time they get to the thought process of, oh, this movie's tanked and we're going to cheapen it, we're going to make it less expensive for people to watch it, I think they're also going to pull it out of the better theaters and move it to the lower end screens because it's already not worth the investment. And so they throw up something that they think can make money in those bigger screens that are going to get the bigger bucks. So the movie not only gets downplayed in cost, but I imagine that it's going to get downplayed in the quality that they're willing to give you of it.
I see. There's a big risk, in my opinion, that I don't think Regal Cinemas has truly taken into account, and that is that the bombing of the movies, to where we get a Gem and the Holograms. Oh, this is going to it's going to make some money, and then 2 weeks later, it's pulled from every theater because no one is watching it. The movie theaters still had to pay for that movie, to be in there. That's where like you look at this, even with the bigger budget movies, like the day is going to come when the Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie or any of these big tentpole franchise movies is going to bomb. And if this becomes that case, does this not cripple the Regal Cinemas, or if AMC jumps on, or Goodrich jumps on to this and does the adjustable pricing, does that cripple them? Especially like AMC and Regal are the big two when it comes to the movie theater chains. Does this then kill a lot of the old other ones? Where, to be honest, with where I live, for us to have technically 3 but really 2 movie theaters that are multiplexes playing multiple things, that's a rarity because I do not live in a big town. And so to have and they're happen to be right across the street from each other, but still, that's whatever. I could see if this happens and they get enough bombs, like and Patrick, I honestly agree with you with looking at the movie draft list this year for the winter. There's not a lot of movies on there that interest me, where for the summer there was, and Corey can attest to this because I was talking about the movies on here, I had 3 months planned out where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go this week, then this week, then this week, then this week, then this week, and then skip 2 weeks to catch my breath, and then and then back to you
can only eat so much popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. It's just drink a Guinness and ate corn and made a bumblebee.
Beat brings up an interesting point too, which is the perception of, if you see a movie that comes out and it's a lower cost, aren't you already going to perceive it as being a bomb and not worth the investment no matter what the cost is? If they say, oh, well, this movie is going to be $6, then it's like, well, why would I go see that? It's obviously already filled. It's the premium pricing sometimes gathers more attention. That's why an iPhone or what Google's trying to do with the Pixel is they raised the price to match iPhones, even though it was an unproven phone, because they wanted to compete at that level as opposed to competing at a lower level when it could have sold a lot better as a $600 device instead of an $800 device. If I'm going to the theater, if I'm the sort who's going to look for a cheap movie or cheap entertainment and don't care what I see, sure, that's fine. But if people are seriously always looking for the blockbusters, for that first week or so, you can get people to accidentally see a crappy movie, but still pay full price for it. But if you start saying, oh no, we're telling you now, this movie is not going to succeed, then it's like, well, thank you. I will not waste my money on this at all.
I think Growly Bear brings up, because I'm looking in the chat, an interesting point here. Or actually, B emphasized it. Because we're looking at this, I'm looking at this from a single person's perspective. You guys are really looking at this from, going at your own, so the wives don't care, or wives, so you're doubling it. But what about the families? Like, how would this affect the families? Because
you send your kids to the cheap movie, and then you watch the better film for yourself.
Well, I think if there's particular viewings that don't get a lot of audience, like Tuesday night or something, I think that if they lower the price, then families would be like, okay, we're going to see the movie on Tuesday. We're not going to see it opening night because it's cheaper on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And he mentions in the chat, Disney's totally going to, or not Disney, but they would jack up the prices on the Disney movies because they can. Like, oh, it's a Disney movie? Well, there's a premium for that. Not just 3D now. It's not a premium 3D. It's a premium because it's a Marvel movie. It's premium because it's Star Wars.
Although you still get moments like The Good Dinosaur is the Pixar bomb, and who would have imagined that Pixar was going to have a bomb, and that's something that could very much be, I'm going to take the kids and drop them off at the theater for a little bit because it's a $5 movie as opposed to a $10 movie. But who would ever think that movie wouldn't be successful? And could the drop in price increase things for them or not?
I'm really confused with this because, I mean, at the one side, it is sort of making me go, well, Movie Pass is an option and I can use it in both of the movie theaters. And also, I think depending on how that GPS part works with the area, I could probably use it at my work.
I mean, Movie Pass is even more interesting to me from a family perspective.
Yeah,
because $10 a month for me is a sort of splurge because I know that I'm not always going to go see films. But if I had wife, kids, and it was now $40 for entertainment, multiple nights of entertainment for the month, versus whatever it would cost to take the kids out to a movie, let alone like one or two a week, that's an incredible savings. So it exponentially gets more valuable the more people you add to it.
Yeah, and Beats pointing out, this is from the article, that Regal won't consider sharing revenue with Movie Pass, which is sad, but I think it's, I honestly feel like that's just going to be, if Regal and other people really are considering this, I think that we're going to get this crossroads where it's either, Movie Pass just keeps going and gathering subscriptions for a little bit, and then they get like how they originally built it, where we're trying to do the gym membership thing where you keep paying it, but yet because you forgot to cancel it, and so it's going to be that price where it's like you don't really care. It's like, it's $10 a month, whatever. I see one movie at, every once in a while, 3-month gap. So you're paying $30 for one movie. I think this is going to be the whole, VHS, Betamax, Blu-ray, HD DVD debate just before it gets into home viewing entertainment.
Yeah, it should be that I go to the movie theater, I buy a ticket for a movie, and then I scan the UPC code on the back, and it sends it directly to my Movies Anywhere. And then I just go home. Then I just say, screw it. My $10 a month bought me all the movies from the movie theater. I just have to stop, take 5 minutes to pick up my ticket, and then I go home and watch it and wait for all these other goddamn people.
So
make it happen, Disney.
They're not going to make that happen. But yeah, so I guess it's going to wrap it up right here. Let's, real quickly, we'll talk with, Patrick, plug away. This is your time now. What do you want to plug?
My podcast, AnimeCons TV, every Monday, new episodes, and it's not just anime conventions. We named it a long time ago. We talk about all sorts of conventions. And a couple weeks ago, I got a report on BlizzCon that I'm going to this weekend. So yeah, you can find us on YouTube. Just search AnimeCons TV. It's a video podcast, so we're on iTunes and all the other podcast places too. So check that out.
Nice.
Subscribing now.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, that is going to wrap it up here for us. And if you want to send us mail, you can do that by emailing us, mail@elsenerds.com, or you can do the voicemail thing at 805-328-3966. We look at all that stuff. Or you can, subscribe to us. All of our stuff can be found at gncast.com/subscribe. And just look for Galactic Netcasts for Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. The show is at ElseNerds. Our producers, Beatmaster is at Beatmaster80. Evan is at Mr_Fusion. Sean Burns is at SBurnsPA. You can find me at That's Gregor. And Corey, where can people find you?
You can find the comics that I help publish and occasionally help write at donutscomics.com, the one-stop shop for everything Levi Krause.
Yes. And the final thing to be said, as a throwback to the Game On, this has been a Don't Tell Glenn production. We will see you next week.
Or else.
For more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's gncast.com.